Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince!
And it's time once again
to recommend things.
Vince,
yes.
What do you recommend today?
I recommend a book. A novel by Isabel Allende. Allende, however you say her name. Zorro! And I think it's funny that it says a novel Zorro, because Zorro is apparently a novel. Anyway, so it's a novel about Zorro, and it came out in 2005. So the big reason that I'm sitting here recommending this right now is because we had a viewer comment on Captain Logan's review of The Mask of Zorro and asked, I think the viewer's name is Apropos Reeve. So Apropos Reeve, this is for you. I'm recommending Zorro. And what do I like about Zorro? It's basically Batman Begins if it were Zorro.
Ooh.
It's really interesting to me, and it basically takes Zorro from before he was even born. It follows this like alternate history where we follow how Zorro's father and Zorro's mother ended up together. Zorro's mother being of a native tribe, and Zorro's father being a Spaniard, and how they're extremely alternate paths, like two warrior families coming together essentially to produce the guy that would eventually become Zorro. And really the book doesn't end when he becomes Zorro, but he doesn't actually become Zorro until around about the last chapter.
Oh, interesting.
So it's really about the journey from you know, how a person grows to become this way.
But it's not boring or anything?
No, I thought it was personally pretty interesting. I mean, if you're looking for that big high adventure story, you know, look into some of the other Zorro things.
Right.
But this is really setting up the characterization of what's a kid like, or what would what would Zorro be like if you were a kid? You know, what would Batman be like as a kid?
Yeah, it's a character study.
So yeah, you know, I mean, some of the big interesting stories is like the guy who becomes Zorro, Diego. He captures a bear when he's a kid. So how does a person capture a bear? Well, what they're trying to do is illustrate how clever he is, and that he's not just some dude with a sword. This is a guy who actually has a lot of things firing for him. So it's a big journey. I don't really want to give away too much. I mean, because you know, when you're studying a character and you're studying a character's roots and a character's, well, character, you know, it's kind of important. I mean, it may move a little slow for some people, but I really enjoyed it. You know, actually, I listened to the audiobook. I just happened to check this one out.
I was going to ask if that was one that you audiobooked.
Yeah, and I do recommend the audiobook.
Was it a decent reader?
It had a female orator, and you know, it worked pretty well. You know, it's even though you have a male protagonist, it worked fairly well for me.
Well, it was written by a woman, so
yeah, it was written from
Are you sure it wasn't read by the author?
I don't know. Actually, when I walked to the library, I came in like 10 minutes before they were closing, and I didn't want to spend time looking all over the library, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Librarian, where is it?" He goes, "Well, that'd be in fiction." I said, "Thanks." And I said, "Where at in fiction?" And he
sounds like a librarian to me.
And he just points the right direction, and he said, "But before I send you, would you prefer English or Spanish?" And I said, "English, please."
Right.
I'd like my book in English, much like I like my hamburger with a bun.
Would have been really funny if you only knew like a sentence or two in Spanish, and then you just said whatever you knew to him.
He's like, "Well, the bathrooms are that way, but would you like the book in Spanish?"
He's like, "We don't serve tacos here."
Oh, here's the reason why it worked well, is because it's written from the perspective of a female character.
Oh,
so
okay,
our main protagonist is a guy. So we follow Diego all the way throughout his travels.
But there's a third party.
But yeah, so this is a third-party account of what happened in Zorro's life.
That's a cool way to go, yeah.
And you would think it might be a little strange, but the author as the character speaks directly to the audience sometimes. It's like, "Oh, don't worry, fair readers, I'm not going to take you off in such a wild spot. We're going to come back to the story. I just feel that you need to know this before we move on." So it's not exactly a diary, but it's sort of this mesh of narrative and diary. So it's basically like somebody sat down to write a diary about another person. It's really interesting to me, and I don't feel like it's scatterbrained at all.
Sure, well, it's like a first-person biography.
Yeah.
You know, where you have like a biographer who follows a person around.
Yeah. So I recommend it. It's a pretty solid book. Do it.
Today I'm going to recommend a comic book reference book that came out just last year. Per my usual, I'm going to recommend something that you probably have heard of but haven't looked at yet. That's what I do. And so the book I'm going to recommend today is DC Comics Year by Year: A Visual Chronicle. This came out just last year, as I just said. And this is for the 75th anniversary of DC Comics. I've been doing this a lot lately. I love getting these books that have these cool like hard sleeves. I don't know why. Like that immediately makes me want to buy a book now. I don't know why, but I just love these. Anyway,
it's part of the reason I got all those Tales from the Crypt slipcase things. It's so neat.
This is one of the coolest reference books I've ever seen. Here's what's weird about DC versus Marvel. DC makes the best reference books. They have the best reference library. And Marvel has the best trivia library. I don't know why that is. DC doesn't seem to put out trivia books. Marvel does, but Marvel's reference library is more scatterbrained. DC puts out more of these big, thick volumes that are more comprehensive. So, I don't know.
Well, you see, it's because all the guys at DC tend to forget what they have, so they have to write it down. However, the Marvel guys just have this big elite group of people who produce trivia books.
Do you think maybe it's? I think it's because of Crisis. I think they're just like, you know what? We don't want to have to split up a book pre-Crisis and forget it. We're not doing trivia anyway. So this is exactly what it sounds like. I hardly have to even talk about it because what it does is it goes from the first year of DC before there even was a DC, and it goes on year by year, and it has these full, like 2-page. Spread, so it'll be like 1941, and then it will give you the big highlights of the year, both the canonical highlights and also just stuff going on in the real world. And then in between a lot, they'll give you big like a full page covers and lots of art. And I don't know, it's really smart, it's really useful, it's entertaining to read at the same time as it's really informative, and I'm really enjoying it. I haven't read all of it yet. I've kind of skipped around a little bit here and there, but if you like something that's kind of encyclopedic, but it's not an encyclopedia, something a little bit different, this is by year. You don't get a lot of things like that, and I kind of wish a few more things would do this. This is a timeline of DC from 1938 all the way up, and it's super, super interesting. So, I don't know. That's really all I have to say about it. It's really worth getting if you are as into comics and things as we are. Like I said, it goes all the way up to last year. So,
the guys at DC saw the Pop Culture Yearbook and thought this sounded like a good idea.
No, this came out before we started that, in fact, but this had nothing to do with why we started that.
The guys at DC have a time machine and like to watch YouTube in the past.
But yeah, this goes all the way up
future.
This goes all the way up to Blackest Night and Brightest Day. So good stuff. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about it. Take a look at it for yourself, and hopefully some libraries start getting this so you can always take a look at it. That's funny, we both grabbed things that could very easily be found at libraries.
Yeah.
Yours actually was a library book, I was noticing.
Yeah. Lawrence Pub. What do you know?
Well, in fact, I'm an idiot. You said you got that from a library, right?
Yeah.
See, I thought you picked it up and it just used to be a library book.
No. I checked it out yesterday because I don't own the book.
Thanks, everybody, for watching us recommend things. We'll recommend something for you once again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
Oh, I didn't turn the camera off. Should I do that?
That's a good idea.